You are listening to The Full Circle.
So the matric class of 2024 has achieved an impressive 87.3% pass rate, one of the highest in recent history. And the milestone means that more students than ever before will be entering the working world. However, we also know that youth unemployment saw a slight decline towards, not a significant one, a very slight one, towards the end of the year. And the gains were mostly concentrated in largely unskilled sectors such as construction and trade. But at the same time, we also keep talking about just the disconnect between available skills and market demands, aka jobs for the future. And so we thought we'd catch up with founder and CEO of Centennial Schools, Santon, Shaun Fuchs, and have this conversation around how AI has the potential to bridge South Africa's skills gap. How are you doing this afternoon?
Sure, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time. Let's get into this, because this is an ongoing conversation, right, about there being a disconnection between the matric pass rates and our sort of tertiary leavers and what the market actually is demanding and needing these days. So let's have a conversation about the mismatch firstly. Why do we have this mismatch, and why does it seem as though we still not getting our heads around this conversation and how to optimize on the skills needed versus the sort of kids coming out of school and the qualifications coming out of tertiary?
So I think that the root problem is that we haven't adjusted our curriculum. Our curriculum as it stands now was first discussed in 1997 to implement curriculum 2005. And the changes that came about in terms of CAPS, which is the current curriculum, was in about 2012. And then in about 2019, we started talking about preparing our kids for the fourth industrial revolution. We're on the fifth industrial revolution with artificial intelligence as the dominant factor, and yet we're still talking about preparing them for the fourth industrial revolution. So I think there's a huge disconnect in what we are teaching in the curriculum as opposed to the skill set that we need right now. And if you take any kid that comes out of school with the matric, what is that matric certificate qualifying that student to do? Absolutely nothing.
How do we then begin, Shaun, how do we sort of begin to rethink what traditional education looks like or should look like in the fifth industrial revolution?
I think we need to accept that the entire curriculum needs an overhaul. I mean, I can ask you very simply, what's the stuff you learned at school, what are you currently using now in your career, or have you used in your career?
Absolutely nothing, considering that I didn't even do speech and drama, and look where I ended up.
100% correct, Bridget. So you are absolutely correct in that. And the issue is we are not taking realistic skills for our students and teaching them those skills. And at Centennial Schools, that's exactly what we've started doing, is we want to future-proof our students so that by the time they leave school, they have the ability to interact with a world that literally changes within a couple of months.
So how have you guys done that, or how are you managing to do that with your SGB? What are you taking into consideration as you plan, for the next coming academic years?
So we've digitized to a large extent. So the school focuses on three core areas: on technology, on science and maths, and on business and entrepreneurship. And those three pillars literally run through the school in whatever we teach. So we are bound legislatively to teach the curriculum. Our students write the IB exam when they get to matric, but in those lessons, we will teach those three pillars along the lines of each subject. So we incorporate that in. So every student works off a laptop, for example. I mean, when you talk to parents and you say to parents, when's the last time you took a piece of paper, punched it, and put it into a lever arch file? They laugh at you because they haven't done it in years. Yet that is how we are teaching at the moment. So we digitized to a large extent the majority of what we're doing with our students. And obviously now more recently, bringing artificial intelligence into that mix in the classroom.
Given the fact that part of the conversation in South Africa is that a large majority of our schools are unfortunately not as resourced, don't even come close to being equally resourced to a campus like yours at Centennial, how do we ensure then that we don't leave any children behind? Because, there's this conversation that Premier Lesufi is driving right now, for instance, around singular exams. And the one point that he makes that I think that should be at the center of this is that at the end of the day, whether you're coming out of Deep Sloot Secondary or Centennial, you are going into the same university to start, basically the same curriculum on the same level, on the same footing, but we're not starting on the same footing.
Yeah, there's a huge dichotomy in terms of what's going on within South Africa, where you have schools that are going to have all the facilities available, and it's based on an income. That's really what it is, unfortunately. And I think what needs to happen is we need to break it down as realistically as we possibly can, with the understanding that we do need some element of change. So that element of change could be small, whether it's students working on their mobile devices. Many students have mobile devices. It doesn't matter what school you're at. And how can that be incorporated? I think bringing big business into areas. There are a lot of fiber companies that supply fiber that have been incredible with supplying fiber into government or state schools. So I think it has to be broken down into a much smaller, detailed level per area, per school, on what capability is, because I don't think a blanket approach can be applied to everyone. I don't think that's going to work.
In our final minute, literally, Shaun, let's just touch a little bit on subjects like robotics, for instance, and their preparation for students for the real world that they're going to be living in the not so very distant future.
Yes. So bringing things like robotics and obviously coding into the curriculum is fantastic, because it gives hands-on technical skills, particularly the robotics, because students working with robotics kits and sensor, it gets them to understand how AI can interact with physical systems, and it produces problem solving and critical thinking. So those are core skills that our students need into the fifth industrial revolution.
We've run out of time, and I think we've just literally scratched the surface of this conversation. But we appreciate your time and your insight this afternoon. That was founder and CEO of Centennial Schools, Santon, Shaun Fuchs, joining us now 2 o'clock on the dot on